Hi friends. So this video is just going to talk a little bit about the creative process. One of the things that I'm really interested in is the creative process as it relates to spiritual practice and the idea of mysticism and the arts and how they coincide and relate to each other. So in my own life as an artist, I had a period where I was drawing these mandalas all the time. And the reason I started doing them, initially was just to get back into drawing something. But the other reason was sort of as a meditative exercise. I was going through a bit of a spiritual journey, and these mandalas helped me to sort everything out and gave me a point of focus that I found very healing. So the way that I approach them is that I would get out a pen and paper, and it was important to me that at first I used pencil, but then it was important that it be pen, and important that I took the approach of them being very process oriented. So trying not to worry about the final result and really just allowing the meditative focus to take over, which is to say that the mind that judges or the peanut gallery really had to take a back seat. And it was just about allowing the full expression of whatever wanted to come out. And so I was using a pen and a marker, and I was not able to erase. And what's interesting observing myself doing this, of course, a lot of times you think, oh my gosh, this line didn't come out right. This wasn't what I wanted to do. I don't know what I want to do next. Is it going to work out? All of these doubts and self-criticisms and judgments, and just kind of continuing anyway in spite of what comes up, and allowing that to come through, even if it feels ugly or wrong or whatever the mind wants to tell you. So what happens when you do that, you establish a channel into the creative point, because creativity comes from, in my opinion, sort of a transcendent place in the psyche that's kind of an amalgamation of our experience, but at the same time transcends what we can consider our experience in this lifetime. And I think we do tap into something greater and something really transcendent as artists when we allow ourselves to reach that point where we're free of judgment and really give ourselves the permission to play and be playful. So the only really rule for me making these mandalas was, that they would have this basic kind of circular composition, but that mostly that I would take like a playful approach. And what ended up happening was something really, really healing for me. I discovered new forms. I discovered some new techniques. I found new arrangements and meanings in my lines. And probably most surprisingly, I found myself in communication with, a new part of myself. So at this point, you're reaching kind of this level of mysticism where creativity and mysticism kind of merge, and you're giving an opportunity for greater forces to find expression in the material world through you. Guess you can call it a bit like channeling. Inspiration, divine inspiration. You can call it all sorts of things. But I did find this happening pretty consistently when I was working, and I just kind of went with it. And what I learned in the process is, a meditative state of being where I was able to release control and release some judgment. And it's almost like I was creating and listening at the same time, watching myself do it, so that it was me, but it wasn't me. Well, it's me in the sense that it was like more me, like a bigger me doing it. Things that if I had tried to consciously do it, I definitely would not have come up with it. And so this is really a great way to get in touch with this higher intelligence that goes beyond, what we are used to consciously working with. And this can transcend the filters that we normally put on our thoughts, on our minds, of what's possible. And I think this is really important because I don't think we spend a lot of time in this space. It's sort of a shamanic, transcendent space that really requires more than anything else. It just requires an intention to engage with that part of ourself in a sense of playfulness. And that through that intention and sense of playfulness, staying loose and just staying open to whatever can come up. And I think for creative people, especially if you're in a creative block, well, because that's what I think started a lot of this, is I was creatively feeling really blocked. I didn't know what I wanted to throw myself into at a creative level, what came next. And, sometimes it's just thinking about it is just doesn't get you there. So making these mandalas was really a way to prime the fountain of creativity and just let things be what they are. And what developed was an entire language of sorts for me that kind of blossomed into a relationship that I had with myself and with what I would call like my inner muse. And, as each mandala developed, the other interesting thing that happened is I would start to receive sort of messages or information to the point where I would say they were like, claircognizant experiences, which I wasn't expecting. But there you are. That's what happens when you open up. So that these images, I started looking into sacred geometry and some of the more esoteric writings on sacred geometry, shapes, and symbols, and really wanting to understand what this language was. And then that's kind of drove me into, light language, asemic writing, sigils, and, that whole thing. So that's been my journey. And I've come to realize that these mandalas really have energetic power. They do have energetic power. And that visually symbols are a powerful force in the subconscious mind. That looking at them, making them, working with them can be very powerful. So especially if you're an artist, you already know this. But I feel that there's a disconnect. I feel that a lot of artists work with these transcendent methods but also kind of fail to grasp their reality or their importance. I know I did for a long time. So I guess I'm just making this as a sort of explanation as to what these things are that I'm doing or what I have been doing. And just to say that, creativity is not only the purview of the professional artist or whatever, but that it really belongs to everyone. And that we can all connect to this in our own way. And that there's definitely a component here of communion, tapping into something bigger than ourselves. Which is the ability to just create something from nothing. It's like you start with an empty piece of paper and you just end up with something that didn't exist before, something totally new. So, judge it how you like. That's a different story. But I find it amazing that we can all do this. And it really doesn't take much, just takes a pen, a piece of paper. And contemplating our creative power like this, you just inevitably start to think, what else can we create? So I'll just leave it at that for now. Thanks for listening.